Hi there. Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show where we do 3 or 4, I ran long this time, stories and get you on your way in about 20 minutes, maybe today. If you have an option, if you have stories you want us to cover, Creation Station at Broward.org comes right to me. I have also today Miss Micha Roberts. How are
Hello.
you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you very much.
Tell us what you're doing out there, and what library are you at, and what are you doing?
I am at North Regional Broward College Library, and I'm a librarian trainee. So I'm just getting my feet in the door, getting started. I actually recently got accepted to FSU for their
Excellent. Congrats.
Masters of Information program. So I'm very excited about that.
Nice. I'm very happy about this because growing our own building from within sort of thing is a kind of an important thing. If anybody in Broward knows me, it's train, and doing things.
Yes.
We did get a really cool shout out this week also, by the way, for anybody who's out there in library land who notices, or just everybody in general. The Center for Technology in Government from University of Albany, State University of New York. I had to get the correct name in. And the Urban Library Council and the Institute of Museum and Library Services gave us a big shout out in their newest report on responsible AI and it's empowering communities, public libraries, inclusive civic engagement, and artificial intelligence. And they mentioned both this podcast and our monthly podcast as 2 of the 3 podcasts they said are doing responsible reporting on this, which was cool. I was like, nice, fun.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. And speaking of cool, I'm a little chilly down here in South Florida. I know the rest of the country is not. The rest of the country likes being cold for some reason. I do not understand it. And our idea down here of cold is not necessarily the same as everybody else's, because once it hits 70, I pull out the second blanket. So NASA this week revealed a new nice thing for us all for the month of December. Everybody's familiar with your video fireplaces by now, I would think, something you can put on your YouTube channel. NASA put out the Artemis, the SLS, which launches the Artemis space capsule. We've covered that several times here. And it's just a nice little thing. And you just got a nice little rocket roaring in your background and lots of flames. And they're just pointing in the wrong direction for most fireplaces, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's
Do you do any of these kinds of things? Do you play those kinds of things at home?
I don't. We don't have a fireplace. Our house is not one of those that came.
Oh, nobody down here in Florida has a fireplace. Come on. But
Yeah.
do you do like video ones on the TV?
We don't
Ambiance?
actually. Yeah, we usually don't. I mean, most of our time on the TV during the holidays is spent watching movies. So
Okay.
that's really what we're doing most of the time. Yeah.
I get you on that one. I can
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. I am grabbing the next link here that I forgot to put on. Okay, there we go. And now it's there for us. So you use ChatGPT, I'm guessing, or some form of generative AI?
I have not actually. I've been trying to keep myself sort of, I guess, not necessarily pure in that sense, but I'm trying to see how long I can stave away.
And that's a very valid thing. And there are lots of people with that same kind of idea of, is there an actual ethical use of AI, large language models? Remember, we're not talking, regular AI, real AI, as we've covered in our shows before. We're talking, these are large language models that help you do things. Some things. Here's an interesting idea, though. There are people who you cannot ask ChatGPT about because ChatGPT is banned or prevented, locked out from talking about them. What did you think about this one? What's your opinion of, oh, here's a search engine. Oh, by the way, we're going to hide things from you.
I mean, That's been a thing that search engines have done for a long time. So it's not necessarily something new. However, I feel specifically with ChatGPT, I don't think that this is a sustainable way to do the kind of I guess, because what they're trying to do essentially is put a band-aid on the problem of AI hallucinating and making up things about real people that aren't true and are often defamatory, or slander, and that can lead to a lot of issues. So what they're trying to do is, put a band-aid on that and be like, okay, well, we're just gonna circumvent the entire problem by making it as though this person does not exist
Yeah.
and taking them out, which, is like it's not the worst solution, but it's not a great solution either
Oh,
because
it's pretty far out there on the worst scale.
yeah, I mean it's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. And it's also not effective because you know, what if this problem keeps happening? Like, you have to think about the scaling of this kind of thing. Is
Mhm.
this scalable thing? And it's really not because it's like you have to be putting tons of names in. And also, it's like not everybody has a super unique name that's resistant to
These names are not super unique. I mean,
yeah.
I- I'm not going to say the people's names out loud, but if you go to the show notes, obviously these articles are there for you to go read and do. But the one person from Australia, he's an Australian mayor,
Yeah.
and ChatGPT says that he went to jail for a bribery scandal when he was actually the whistleblower who brought the bribery scandal to
Uh,
light and arrested somebody else. And it's like, it's not just hallucinating, it's hallucinating in the exact opposite way of what really happened.
yeah, exactly. And I think another issue too is like, because with these large language models, especially with things like ChatGPT, it doesn't, the way that they work is they don't think in the same way that
Right.
people think.
They don't think. Right.
They're just running algorithms. They take everything that you put
Mhm.
in the text and they turn it into numbers. So
Yeah.
they have no idea what you're typing. They just turn everything into numbers and they're running calculations and tokenizing all of these phrases in order to, run it through the program, essentially the code. And, that's not how humans associate information.
Yeah. That's
That's
not how
not how
we think.
that's not how we
At
interact
least
with
I think
information.
you're a person. I believe I am a person. I don't
Yeah.
think that we think that way. I've
No.
always checked the I'm not a robot box.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I don't think that it's
yeah.
a sustainable thing, and I think that it's pretty bad that this is happening to begin with because it demonstrates some pretty
Yeah.
major flaws with ChatGPT's ability to give you information.
Right. And I mean, and the other article to give you a good example of it, um, it is enough that you can't mix two names together to try and come up with the right name.
Yeah.
You just automatically block. No, I'm unable to produce a response.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like this is just nuts. So go
It's
through these articles. It's good in depth about why these individuals happened and what's going on and suspicions. But of course, OpenAI, that is in charge of ChatGPT, does not come out with any definitive statements on what's going on.
no, of course not, because they at the end of the day they have a business model and they're trying to protect that business model. And so they're not gonna, say anything that could threaten that
Yep.
essentially.
Yep. I think we need a happy story.
Yes.
So Notre Dame is about to reopen.
Yes.
It's amazing. I was in
Sounds
Paris last
exciting.
summer. Yeah, last summer we were in Paris. No, not in 2023.
Oh, nice.
But yes, 2023 before the Olympics, because we watched some of the stuff being built there, and
Uh,
we looked at a lot of the construction stuff that was going on at the time in Notre Dame. By the way, we did cover this way back when, episode number 92. We covered
wow.
it's part of the rebuilding process of taking some of the old medieval technology and techniques of how it has to be done to rebuild the roof in particular. And it is just, come on, give me the pictures. So this fairly intense. I know this was super intense for. I was a little surprised by how intense some of my friends and people took this event seriously. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, a lot of people were
But they
devastated by it.
rebuilt everything. All of the old original bronze pieces that melted in the fire have been recast and redone. And it is just step by step by step. Even all of the little gargoyles and everything that got, a couple of them were damaged, those have been recarved.
Yeah.
It is just insane. All of the detail that went into it, all the stuff that people fixed. And I do highly encourage you to go through and read this article and see from the artists themselves of what happened. And there's a picture floating around out on the internet now of the 500 something people in the cathedral, of all the workers that have been in there working and replacing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think this is pretty exciting. I'm always tickled pink by any attempt to recapture old building techniques. I think it's
yeah,
wonderful. It's always exciting to me because it's like, people made these incredible things and, you know, they had knowledge, they had an
yeah.
understanding of how these things worked, and they made incredible things even without modern technology or power
Or
tools.
sometimes our modern techniques are worse. But
Yeah,
how
exactly.
the ceiling joists are made, and they're carved. Each one is carved out of one tree, out of
Yeah,
just the center of the tree, just to make it that much more stable. It's an
yeah.
amazing piece of historical, not reenactment, just rebuilding. I guess
Restoration, yeah.
is the
It's
best thing.
incredible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
And if
wonderful.
you want to go back in time, we've got a link in the show notes for the old episode. You can go back and listen to that and find those articles we talked about describing some of those techniques specifically. They built a whole village out in a forest just to harvest trees and build for this roof. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Speaking of harvesting, we're going to have some problems coming up here in the near future. So there is a new administration coming into in January for the United States, and in the United States and China have had some trade disputes over the years, many disputes over the many years, and in this case, China has decided they're just going to stop exporting, or more appropriately, exporting to the United States specifically, some rare earth minerals that we need for things like batteries, chips, computer chips, all sorts of electronic devices, since almost everything has a computer chip in it now. The gallium, germanium, and antimony.
antimony, I think.
Antimony. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And those three are rare earth things that are either hard to mine or are the result of other processes. Like when you make aluminum, that's how you get gallium.
Yeah.
And so nobody knows what's going to happen, because if you're out there thinking, well, so what? China's going to block it, and the rest of the world will just go get it and do it. China's like at 87% of the world supply.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of, it's concerning because, yeah, sure, we could just go out and do it ourselves, but going out and doing it yourself is an extremely expensive and time-consuming process.
Yep.
And not only that, it's like the places that these resources come from, China has a lot of land to get resources from. Comparatively, we don't have as much. And a lot of times the US finds it more profitable to go overseas to find these things, especially, like in Africa right now where there's a lot of copper mining and it's
Yep.
causing a lot of damage to the people and the community and the environment there. So that's concerning if they
Yeah.
do decide that, hey, we're just gonna move that overseas and
Yeah,
get it
speaking of
ourselves.
Africa, I don't know if you've been paying attention to current U.S. news. political stuff. President Biden is over in Africa right now, or
I did
was
see
over the
that.
last couple of days, signing some treaties with African countries to counteract some of this as part of the China Belt and Road Initiative that they started 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a long-term, complicated thing. The reason we have it on the show is because this is going to affect the products you can buy in late 2025, probably 2026. So
Yeah.
this is not a thing that you turn on a spigot, turn it off, and all of a sudden you get new stuff. If this
Yeah.
continues, your technology for next year's fall holiday season will be affected.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think this is why people should be investing more in buying refurbished things.
Mm-hmm.
Refurbished technology is not that
We've got
bad.
a bonus link about that in for the final story here.
Ah,
We're gonna get to, and it's in the show notes already for people.
nice.
That's what I was grabbing for earlier. But
Yeah.
before we get to that, I want to talk about some really cool get out of man ads all over the place today.
Yeah.
So, tattoos for brain scans.
It's fascinating. I'm interested in the potential. I'm always interested in the potential to make practicing medicine easier on both the patient and the practitioner. So I think this is really interesting. I want to see though how they get around people with hair. I'd like to see what they plan to do regarding that and if that's something that they'll be able to sort of overcome a challenge that they'll be
Mm-hmm.
able to overcome. But I do think that this is really cool and could potentially have other applications.
Oh, it's
Um,
amazing. Yeah.
so yeah,
So
I'm
let's explain to people who aren't watching the show, just listening to here. So we've got a picture up of someone who's got a very much of a buzz cut, almost effectively bald. And there is a new technique put out from the University of Texas at Austin. We've got the scientists page up also in our show notes, so you can go follow her other work. And they have developed a way of using a robotic arm and temporary tattoos to put the electrodes for an EEG, I apologize, EEG, where they detect your brain waves. They do a lot of this in sleep studies and other things like that. And now they figured out a way to 3D print onto your head, not inside of your head. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. There's no extra gel, none of those little, funky things, sticky things all over. It's one quick printing, relatively quick printing that actually they can attach electrodes to and get the results back from the EEG and measure your brain waves, do all of those things non-invasively, and then it just washes off.
yeah, that's cool.
It's just craziness. And to your point of what happens does everybody have to shave their head? As always, we don't show you anything on this show that hasn't already happened. They're already doing it both for this kind of thing with the buzz cut, and they've got newer experimental ones using
Ooh.
combs and multiple heads,
Right.
robotic hands and multiple heads for printing to pull the hair back, print the tattoo down the scalp line, and then let the hair go and it folds back over.
Okay, that's interesting. That's
You're kind of
interesting.
getting a weave, kind of getting braids, kind of.
Yeah.
It's an insane thing. And it's all
Yeah.
done robotics. It's an automated process because they scan your head and then the robot just takes over and
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I hope that they test it on a lot of different hair textures though.
so here's the picture of them on the thicker hair going on there. And the next one that's in testing is the second arm that is pulling the hair back as it's printing the tattoo.
Right. That's cool. That is very interesting.
Especially if you have to go do this like 2 or 3 nights in a row for like a sleep study, and you
Yeah.
do it the one time and boop, you don't have to go through all the in and out and in and out and done.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And all the going through your head. We're not going to get time to talk about that story, but the link is in the show notes for you on how you've got money sitting in your junk drawer. But you're going to have to go see the show notes to find out about that. Well, see, that fast, Micah. 20 minutes already. Bam, like that.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on up there at North Regional?
Let me see. Not much right now. We're
Because
really
I
preparing
see
for
behind
Outlet.
you there that you were actually in the new teen creation space
Yeah.
there
Hold
at
on.
North Regional.
Yep.
So that's one of our restricted creation station spaces where, yeah, sorry, adults, no, it's available for the teens to come in and use, and green screens and cameras and all the other stuff to hang out and do some fun things.
Yeah, it's mostly for the teens and especially the college students as well. College students from Broward College are welcome to come in as
Young
well.
adults,
The
yep.
facilities. Yeah. Young adults. So that is the hope that it will be fully up and running soon.
Well,
It
I've
would
seen
be
some
nice.
couple things come out of there so far. So
Oh, really?
yeah, it's
Okay.
yeah. They shared some video clip with me before.
Oh,
So
nice.
some of the kids have done a fun little things.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
they're
good.
gonna have a good time with that. And that's a nice little segue there for our final bit here, because if there is a library or librarian or a library trainee that you want to see featured on the show, reach out, Creation Station at broward.org. And if you're in the libraries and you need a copy of that report, hit us up. I'll send it along to you. See everybody next week.
Bye bye.